NBA training camp, a meeting of the minds. Of course, you see Tom Thibodeau at Suns practice and then at Clippers practice. My only question is, when is Mike Budenholzer going to make his way to Phoenix for his triumphant return? Psychos and sickos unite for a surprisingly dangerous edition of PHNX Suns, of course, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5, and get $200 in bonus bets. I'm Erik, that's Steven. We got the Freckle Mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. No nicknames for him today because we're getting right into business. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a member today to get access to, of course, all of the fun, exclusive emojis. We have a very fun show for everybody today. Of course, we'll be bringing you the latest from training camp as Steven was out there for another day as we get one day closer to Friday's first bout in preseason action against the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll talk a little shoe news and we will be tiering 20. That's right. 20 lineups for the Suns, talking about how their secret strength this year, Steven, is their depth and their versatility. But before we get to all of that, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, keeping busy. A lot going on in the NBA side with teams having their media days and all type of quotes flying around. Veteran players that seem like they're on the other end of their prime, saying that they have their best season of their career in store. So there's a lot of false confidence in the air.
Wait, who said that? I missed that.
I will.
Is it Beal?
You do your work.
It's
and
Beal.
You do your work, and you'll see exactly
Beal,
what I'm talking about. You're in that hemisphere, yes. But
in that hemisphere,
yeah. But and then on the W side,
no, you gotta tell me, bro.
On the W side, all type of stuff going on. So it's been a very busy morning.
You gonna go on your Nafisa Collier today?
Oh yeah, big fee. Yeah, big fee.
Who said that?
Huh?
Who said the first thing? Yeah, tell me. Tell me.
There's someone that has been mentioned closely with you over the summer.
Yusuf Nurkic.
I'll leave that there.
Yusuf Nurkic? No. CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum. Wow. Career year incoming for CJ McCollum. What's up, driving and delivery? Muhammad, Lenny, Hefe, Sean, Andy, Ashley. Thank you all for being here on a Tuesday. Muhammad said, let's embrace the youth rebuild. Well, I think that's part of the reason why we'll get into our second topic later today. But first things first, before we get into training camp news, we do have some shoe news. The sneaker market has a new free agent. That is Jalen Green, who reportedly turned down a, quote, lucrative multi-year extension with Adidas, per, of course, Nick DePaula, who's all over the shoe news. The question now, Steven, is does he make the jump to Nike and join fellow teammate, fellow shooting guard, Devin Booker?
I think naturally that's the easy answer. But I think he would be someone that is willing to take a quote-unquote risk with a lesser-known, less popular brand and maybe get his own line or something closer to that as far as having his own shoe.
Yeah.
I could see him being someone that wants to spearhead something like that for sure.
I do kind of feel like the way that some guys just have like an Anta shoe, I could see him definitely having an Anta shoe, but it'd be kind of cool. Well, he is a sneaker free agent this year, so that means we'll see him rock all sorts of kicks. I do wonder what he is going to wear. I don't really have anything else to say about sneaker news. Let's get to some actual basketball, some training camp talk. Another day in the books. Steven, you got to talk to Oso. You got to talk to Rashir. What were your big takeaways as a whole from training camp today?
Competition.
I think you've said that 2 days in a row.
3.
4.
Yeah, honestly, though. Competition stemming from defense and them just getting after it. I feel like that's what's helping them build the type of foundation that it is that they desire. in terms of approach, in terms of what's being expected from each individual, and the way that they're bringing those two things together to have productive practice after productive practice. That's a fun dynamic to hear so many different players kind of say it unprovoked. They find a way to sprinkle competitiveness, competition levels being high, and a lot of the answers that they're speaking to and reflecting on the day that just passed. So it's a good position to be in for them.
Yeah, we have Ashley asking, how's Rasheer looking against NBA talent? Well, we'll hear from him a little bit later, but is he popping for you? Is anybody popping for you at training camp so far?
Well, we don't get to see anything outside of individual workouts.
They don't let you in the film room?
Nah.
They say, you know what you're talking about. Come on in.
Nah. But I will say from what I've seen, Rasheer is very hard working on the marginal areas of his game that he knows he'll need to improve to sustain on the NBA level. And that's working off the catch and shoot threes, attacking closeouts, staying on balance with his shot, the footwork into his shots, whether it be catch and shoot or one dribble pull-ups. He's been working very hard every time I've seen him in the post-practice time of getting work in from media.
Yeah, well, let's get to Oso Ighodaro first here in a second, because I feel like when we get to our latter topic today, which is the versatility and the depth of the lineups and everything, we are going to be mentioning Oso. In fact, we'll be mentioning pretty much every player on the roster in these lineups, but he is one of the more fascinating prospects that we get to talk about, and hopefully somebody that as we get a little bit more through training camp and just get to hear a little bit more from players, that he maybe kind of finds his role a little bit more on this team. What did you get to talk to one half of the Gauchos about today?
Is he half or is he a third? Because isn't Colin?
Is Colin a Gaucho?
Well, guess we got to confirm.
I need you to ask that.
Guess we'll confirm.
I need you to ask Colin. Hey, Colin. Steven here. I know I usually ask about basketball questions, but are you a Gaucho?
We'll get confirmation. First clip though we have from practice today was Oso speaking to one of the operative words again, the competition levels of the team and how they've competed and kind of set their foundation defensively together.
Yeah, we've been getting after it. I think the guys we brought in fit that culture perfectly. We're competing, we're guarding, and I think that's more than anything, just that competition level makes us all better. So we've been going at it. Obviously, you saw the clip of Durant. They only got the one side, which is crazy. But we've been competing and pushing each other to get better this entire week.
I know you've heard the terms, the competition over and over again. Mm-hmm. And of course it's true, but I think also what speaks a lot is how excited the guys are when they're talking about competition, when they're talking about the work, and when they're talking about putting in these extra efforts, that when you're surrounded by people who continue to do that, that in turn will get you excited if you are the type of person who does that.
Yeah, it becomes infectious, contagious, whatever kind of one of those words that you want to use as far as speaking to one thing from one person emanating and becoming comprehensive. That very much is it. And I imagine a lot of that starts with your best player because that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of setting off the buy-in for each and every other piece that's involved with the team. If they see Devin Booker diving for 50-50 balls at practice and a coach that's imploring those things, everybody else, there's a precedent, there's a standard that's set. And when that's met every single day, arduously with intention, now you have a culture. Now you have an identity that you're playing towards. And that's a differentiation type of piece right there. And to that point, in terms of the individual side of it, looking at Oso Ighodaro, one of the more versatile pieces last season, one of the more successful individual defenders with the Suns. I got to talk to him a little bit about maybe what's different in terms of him defensively with Ott in comparison to last season, and how Ott is going to implore for him to play to more of his strengths this season. Anything different about your usage or how you've been featured defensively this season with Jordan Ott?
I think the coach has been just letting me be more aggressive. I think that's one of my advantages, using my speed and my quickness to get up in ball screens and being a disruptor on the ball. So trying to do that. And yeah, I think just coaches have really been just pouring confidence into me all summer, so it's been great.
Are you spending more time at the level or up to touch in pick and roll defense?
Yeah, I think that's my advantage. You know, big, huge, big like Kaman can wipe everything at the glass, maybe further back. But my advantage is I can get up and stick with the guard and impact the ball. So that's what I've been trying to do.
Have they had any conversations about like drop coverage technique or anything as far as that goes in comparison to last season?
Yeah, for sure. I think Coach I has been great with the details. We've been every little thing from jump ball positioning to end of game situations. We've talked about everything. We're coming back at night to watch film and go over little situations. So the attention to detail is definitely there.
Do you see any similarities between his approach and the energy he comes with and Shaka Smart?
Definitely. I just connected them last week, put them in a group chat, you know what I'm saying? But I love Shaka and everything he's about, and that's why I knew he would appreciate Coach I. Just their maniacal work ethic and everything they do is led by example. So I see so many similarities in them, and hopefully they can form a relationship.
There's a lot of talk about Oso Ighodaro finding his role in the league, and a lot of it comes offensively. Can he get a floater? You know, will he be better in transition, passing the ball as a screener, DHO, all of that. And I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, Steven, Oso Ighodaro's best skill right now, the best thing that he can bring to the Phoenix Suns is the versatility on defense. He is by far and away their most versatile big man defender.
It's not even close because Oso is a different type of athlete in space in comparison to the other his front court mates. And I think he pretty much said that as far as looking at his strengths and being implored, like I said, to play to those. So where Mark Williams and Kaman might be in drop coverage in some capacity, Mark's might be a little bit deeper than Kaman's, or they might challenge them both to be a little closer to the level in that, but it'll be drop coverage for the most part. Also, like he just said, is going to just be at the level or up to touch and switching and hedging and playing different concepts within that in pick and roll defense.
When you say up the touch.
So touching the person that's setting the screen. That way the ball handler doesn't have a clear vision of just turning the corner, allows for the person guarding the ball handler to stay attached and things like that. But yeah, him and his activity is going to be very important for a team that wants to cause more deflections and play off of turnovers more. That's
how he's going to earn his role. And then all the offensive stuff afterwards, that's going to be just kind of icing on the cake with a guy like Oso. If he does end up playing the 4 because he could defend positionally, like that's going to be really important, how he plays along with the 5. Also interesting to see how he pairs with Rasheer Fleming, who you also got to talk to today.
Yeah, Rasheer he's very young, but very intelligible. And you can notice it with him not using too many words, but very much getting what it is that he's thinking of across. So here's what he had to say to me about just generally what prepared him for the NBA level from St. Joe's and how everything that he did there set the table for his successes on the NBA level.
Being there, playing for Coach Billy Lane, like he played in the NBA like style on both ends, like offense and defense. So I think like 5-out spacing, like we all like I've done that before at St. Joe's. All the shift spots on defense, low man, all the like the placement and stuff I kind of had a good idea already because I was at St. Joe's. So I think my coach Billy Lane did a good job with that.
And do you feel like the role that you played defensively there, because it felt like we saw you guarding 3s, 4s, and 5s, you feel like that's something that's going to translate to the league level too?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because I'm moving my feet much better too.
Listen, man, I'm super pumped about Rasheer, and I feel like man, been hitting arm day. I'm super pumped about Rasheer. I'm excited for a lot of these young guys. I think Rasheer, it's interesting because we didn't get to see a ton of him in summer league. It'll be interesting to see when he's surrounded by some better talent, especially offensively. How does he fit his game in, and defensively as well? And that's why this team is surprisingly dangerous. That doesn't mean they're going to be the best in the conference, but I think they're going to be better than people think. It's because of guys like Rasheer, because of guys like Oso, and because of the lineup versatility and the depth that this team has that they didn't have last year. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to do what we do best, which is talk basketball. We are going to be tiering 20 lineups for the Phoenix Suns in order of best to worst, and we're going to do it all after this break. you might need to settle in for this one. Some high-level basketball talk happening, so might not indulge into some pure edibles. Pure edibles, of course, we love supporting local, founded in Arizona and available in 130 dispensaries statewide. I also love their Mother Road collab because this is not me being like a shill. This is me being honest. My favorite IPA is the Tower Station IPA from Noble Road. It is awesome, and you can get it as a little bit of weed in there too. It is not too bad. The best part about pure edibles themselves, though, is that they're clearly listed and designed to be ripped or bit in half, so you know exactly what to expect when you're taking edibles. In fact, one of the worst things that you can get when you are taking edibles is those unexpected side effects, or you take too much and you end up not feeling too great. You can avoid all of that if you start slow, go low, work your way up with pure edibles. Go find yourself some pure edibles products from one of the 130 dispensaries across Arizona. Like I mentioned, PHNX Suns is brought to you by Bet365. Sean in the chat earlier said October is awesome because there's so much sports going on, and I agree with you, Sean, and that's why Bet365 is so awesome because they've got action on all of it. Playoffs in baseball, they got it. NHL season gonna start up, they got it. NBA season starting up, they got it. NFL, college football in full swing, they got it. They got early payouts, they got safety net bets, and of course, right now with Bet365, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10 and place a bet for $5 to get 200 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. And I always want to give a shout out to Bet365. The app itself is fantastic. It's very easy to use. Go check it out. Download the Bet365 app today. Shout out to Deborah Aiden, who's listening to this at work. That's awesome, Aiden. I like where your priorities are. Metallica Cop? I don't know. Dagoon, Sandman, Ashley, Sean, Muhammad, Jackie. lots going on. Sean says, do I get paid for that saying? No. Metal Cop says, want to see a short list. Name Suns players who don't have something to prove. I'm excited.
Who don't have something to prove?
That's the list. Everybody has something.
Yeah, everybody got something to prove. Like literally everybody. So nobody's absolved or.
It's a good question.
That is a good question though, for sure.
Yeah, Metallicop is what I'm gonna roll with. I don't know if I've seen you in here before. Metallicop, I like it. All right, let's get into our floating heads segment of the show, aka our tier list. We are going to be tiering, of course, the lineups that the Suns might be able to employ. I know it's a lot of their floating heads and everything, but we're going to tier it into S, A, B, C, and D. And I know there's going to be some very similar iterations, but you know, you move guys in and out and you get some difference and stuff. So if you need to zoom in, you can zoom in. Of course, we'll say all the lineups out loud as well. Of course, let's go ahead and start with the starting five, Steven. That is Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks, and Mark Williams. How do you feel about the starting five for the Phoenix Suns?
For what it is that they've communicated they desire to do and the ways in which they desire to go about operating on both ends of the floor, I like it. The most questions, I think, come on the offensive side, but I think a few of the ways they can go about kind of mitigating some of the shortcomings they might see early on, multiple efforts, attacking the margins, and especially playing off of stops. I feel like that's a lineup that should be able to get enough stops to reap the benefits of what they can do offensively. And because of that, I think it's a S-tier lineup for the team.
It has to be an S-tier lineup. We're going to talk about importance, positional versatility, offensive output, defensive output, everything like that. And sorry for the people who are watching at work and can't look and see all the different lineups. I will still read all of them out, and we are looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I think this is the easiest of S-tier lineups here. Moving on, because I feel like we know what we're getting with the starting lineup. Let's start looking at some different iterations of things. Once some bench players come in, it's going to be interesting to see how the Suns balance it. What about Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Rasheer Fleming, Dylan Brooks, Nick Richards? How do you feel about that five?
I'm curious what you think about that.
I love
lineup.
it. I mean, this is I mean, Nick Richards is such an interesting part of this. I found myself having to force myself to include him in some of these lineups, but I think let's break it down from the backcourt. Colin Gillespie and Jalen Green. I do think that they fit really well together. You're going to get a lot of threes up. You're going to get a lot of activity. Rasheer Fleming and Dylan Brooks is your 3 and your 4. Defensive activity, especially length with Rasheer, hopefully 3-point shooting to insulate that as well. And Nick Richards is a serviceable backup big. I wouldn't say this is S tier. I probably wouldn't say this is A tier. But I do like this lineup.
I like it as well. I wonder how much they get to this lineup, and I think a lot of it is contingent upon how well Rasheer comes along in his individual process, because obviously there's multiple options at that 4 spot that they could go to in place of him there. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on it. If he hits the way I think he could in his rookie season, it could be as good as a B tier team or a B tier lineup for them. For now, I'll throw it in C.
Yeah. Colin, Jalen, Dylan, Rasheer, Nick Richards. That's a C tier lineup. Let's completely change everybody out except for Dylan Brooks. How about taking Jalen Green out of the starting lineup and putting Grayson Allen in? So Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams. So you go full point book, add some more spot up 3-point shooting, but you lose your athleticism. Where does this rank for you if the starting lineup is in S tier?
I loved Grayson being on the floor with Devin Booker each of the last 2 seasons. Again, the small screening that they can both get into with either of those 2 screening for the other that's on the ball is fun. I think that having Brooks and Dunn on the wings to kind of not put as much of a demand on Grayson and Devin to defend primary ball handlers is important. Also, having Mark Williams to funnel players to and having him clean up things on the back end is fun as well. Giving both of those players a vertical spacer is a lot of fun as well. That's a different dynamic than they've had in either of the last 2 seasons. I like that lineup a lot.
I think there's a chance that this lineup works better than the starting lineup. Depending on how Green and Book do end up building their chemistry together, the ball dominance, the playmaking, and everything like that, there's a chance that you just put a pure 3-point shooter in there and somebody in Grayson Allen who really does thrive on being your 4th or 5th best starter like he did 2 seasons ago with the Frank Vogel-led Suns. I think that there is a chance that, potential aside, because obviously any lineup with Jalen Green, the potential goes through the roof, that this just fits better. I think this is close to being an S-tier lineup because it's basically your starting lineup with a top 10 3-point shooter in the NBA. I'm okay going with A, but I think there's a chance that any iteration of like the starting lineup plus a very, very good skill position player goes in the S-tier as well.
Well, I mean, this could very well be, for the way I've been looking at it, if Devin Booker's playing what has typically been his rotation, playing the entire first quarter, playing the entire fourth quarter, and mixing in half of the second and some half of the third in there in some capacity. If someone's coming in for Jalen, I imagine it's going to be Grayson. So
he's probably going to be the first off of the bench, at least to start the season.
If he's the first off the bench and Jalen's the first out of the starting lineup because he's going to play pretty much the entirety of the second quarter, it makes a lot of sense to me for that lineup to be one that's used a lot more frequently than others. Also, unique to Grayson, they haven't had a rim pressure vertical spacing roller. The way that pulls in the defense from the backside, and now Grayson's attacking closeouts and shooting open threes, it is different. If his shot quality gets incrementally better, that's a player that we've seen lead the league in 3-point shooting before.
So we're okay with S tier?
Yeah.
Okay, let's throw him at the second one in S tier. So the starting 5, and then the starting 5 sub Jalen Green for Grayson Allen in S tier. In C tier, we have Gillespie, Green, Rasheer, Brooks, and Richards. This is what I like to call the ultimate size, and size does matter, lineup. You got Devin Booker at the 1, Ryan Dunn at the 2, Dylan Brooks at the 3, Nigel Hayes-Davis at the 4, and Mark Williams at the 5. So again, it's your starting 5. You sub Jalen Green, but instead of putting a guard that shoots, you're going to put a wing in Nigel Hayes-Davis there at the 4. You could also talk about Rasheer Fleming in there as a potential wing, but Nigel being a veteran, being one of the older guys as well, I think he fits in there nicely. How do you feel about point book surrounded by wings and Mark Williams?
That's a formula for success that we've seen for the last decade now. Devin Booker with a bunch of wings that could do a bunch of different things on both ends of the floor, and a vertical spacing big that can set screens and do things on the interior. I think that's a very good lineup. That's one we might see that might start a fourth quarter and things like that when Devin Booker is in for the entirety of that period.
I think one of the more fascinating combinations for me this year is that the 1 and the 2 is Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn. Because Ryan Dunn is going to have to play big a lot this year, but I think ideally putting him actually more as like a guard defender role would be really, really great. Plus, if he could use his size to bully a smaller defender on offense, I think that could also help. Go get a layup, go get your confidence up, something like that. I'm really fascinated by the Devin Booker surrounded by size and length. I don't think I can put this in S because it's not as proven with Nigel Hayes-Davis in there, and I think there is a chance where the three-point shooting around Book might be a little bit questionable, the spacing in this lineup. If Ryan Dunn's shot isn't falling, if Nigel Hayes-Davis's shot doesn't translate, if Dylan Brooks falls off from a career high year. Last year, we know that Mark Williams isn't going to take a lot of threes. I'm feeling a strong like high B, low A. Where would you put this lineup? I know we love Nigel, but we just got to be...
No, it's less about Nigel and it's more about us having seen iterations of this lineup in the last at least 4 to 5 years be extremely successful for the Suns. I think A will be okay.
I think any starting variation is probably going to be around A. Don't worry, we'll get to the bench sicko stuff.
But my question
in a second
for you,
hit me.
And I probably should have included this with the lineups. I can't remember if I did or not. But what if you put Royce O'Neal in place of Nigel in this lineup?
You get smaller, for sure. I don't hate it. He's more of a connector. He's more of a proven three-point shooter. The spacing definitely gets help, but I think what fascinates me about this lineup is the length and the athleticism of it, and those are two things you lose if you sub Nigel for Royce.
So you lose the length and athleticism, but you gain the three-point shooting and that versatility on offense in terms of that particular usage. Would that bump up for you, or would it stay A?
I think it would probably stay relatively the same. I think that's a pretty even trade-off depending on what you want, depending on who's out there defending you. Okay. I think I'm just a little bit more fascinated by this lineup. What do you think, Juice Man?
I got a question. Who is the secondary scoring option when Booker inevitably gets doubled with this lineup? Is it Brooks?
Has to. At this point, it is Dylan Brooks. I think you're hoping that Ryan Dunn takes enough of a step and that Nigel Hayes-Davis is able to translate enough, and maybe Mark Williams becomes a playmaking scoring hub out of double teams as well. It's probably just going to be by committee, but it is the floor, I think, for this lineup's pretty rough, so maybe we put it in B. Because I think the floor when it comes to the offense of this lineup, if it's not hitting or if it's not translating as well, whether it's from a game basis or overall in the season, that's going to be pretty tough. It's different when you have Grayson Allen in there where it's like, you know that Grayson's going to shoot 40-something% from three. That is an absolute given.
And this is why I talked with Nigel about screening. This is why I continue to speak to the screen under, stay unders that Mikal is elite at, that Ryan Dunn has shown the bones of having potential with. If Mark's not setting those screens, are they double teaming with whoever's guarding Nigel? Are they double teaming with whoever's guarding Ryan?
It's probably Ryan.
And what does that look like? If either one of those two are screening, and I have Mark Williams in a dunker spot, either those two get downhill, it's a 2-on-1, especially if you double team Devin Booker. This is the counter punching I'm talking about. Yeah. Having those kind of connective qualities so that you can operate outside of the traditional box.
So how about this? I think their ceiling is S tier, and I think that they could, when they're not hitting, still just be B tier based off of pure defense alone.
I think B is appropriate, though.
So we can go high B, low A. Okay, so let's go ahead and just slot them in the B tier here. We'll have to revisit. We got a lot of lineups, and we got a lot to do. So we'll throw them up there. How about a whole little bench squad lineup, huh? No starters. How do you feel about Colin Gillespie, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Rasheer Fleming, and Kaman Malawach? How often do you think we're going to see time on the floor without Devin Booker or Jalen Green?
Well, because those are two high-minute earners, I imagine we probably don't see many lineups that don't include either one of those two. But let's say they're up 20 against the Los Angeles Lakers, and they decide to put the reserves in. I think we see a lineup like this one.
This is going to be one of your lower tier lineups for sure.
Lower volume and tier.
Lower volume and tier. This is probably a D tier lineup. Honestly, doesn't mean that there's not fun stuff. I like
it's D for developmental.
D for developmental. I like that. Developmental for Rasheer and Kaman, a little bit for Colin, and then you got the two vets in there. You have Grayson and Royce, right? I think it's interesting when you break it down as okay, the 3-point shooting. If Rasheer is hitting, you've got 4 shooters plus Kaman Malawach out there, and if Malawach ends up being somebody who can knock down a 3, then you have a completely 5-out offense.
Driving lanes galore,
right. I think it's interesting. This is probably your. Either we're down 20 or we're up 20, and if we're down 20, we just need a little kick in the ass, and we're going to put these guys out there and see what they can do. But this is a D tier lineup. Interesting though. Let's keep the vets out there. Let's do the vets with Booker, Green, and Williams. So Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Mark Williams. So you take out Dunn and Brooks from the starting lineup, and you bring in 2 of the best 3-point shooters off the bench in Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen. This is a very small lineup, Steven. In fact, some would call it one of the smallest if it wasn't for Mark Williams that you could put together on the roster. But it is likely your 4 best 3-point shooting options around a big man in Mark Williams, who hopefully would have a lot of room to operate in this scenario.
Yeah, I think there's some fun you could have with this lineup. You can use it against certain teams. Against others, you might not warrant it just because of the lack of size that we're speaking to. There's a certain type of activity they'll have to defend with and generally operate with to make that lineup work. But I think the Mark Williams part in it all will help a lot. If he's that monster commanding the paint that his potential suggests that he can be, especially if he has multiple players that can get him the ball, Devin Booker naturally will be able to get it to him. Grayson is underrated being able to feed a roller. And Royce, in terms of making passes to the post from the wing, is a player that can do that. And I think Jalen is going to grow in his ability to deliver to rollers. You got 4 pieces that can do that with spacing around that.
Yeah.
That's going to be probably the best lineup spacing-wise that we have in terms of the other 16 or 15 we're getting into.
One of the questions you asked me earlier when it was Booker, Dunn, Brooks, Nigel, Mark, or maybe it was what Ayrton asked was, when Book gets double-teamed, what next, right? Not only do you have your best creator outside of Devin Booker and Jalen Green on this, you have 2 veterans and 2 good shooters. You shoot a double at Jalen Green, well, they're going to find Devin Booker with a shifted defense who can then decide if he's going to kick it out to Allen or Royce or download a Mark, or if he's going to take it himself. Vice versa, swap that with Book to Green. Or let's say the read doesn't get sent to the secondary playmaker, whether it's Green or Booker, but you swing it to a corner Grayson Allen. You send the double off of Grayson Allen. You send the double off of Royce O'Neal. You send the double off of Mark Williams, right? When you're going up against a smaller team and maybe a fast team, this is a way that, wow, this team just hit 3 threes in a row. And I think there's enough activity on defense here, especially when you still have Mark Williams, that as long as you're not going up against like a Minnesota Timberwolves, if they're going to put Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert out there, or even if you are and you just want to outrun them, like this is a lineup that I feel like in certain spots and moments, if Jordan Ott taps in with this, it could spark a pretty massive run. And offensively, it's really hard to stop this lineup.
There's just so many different ways this lineup can operate on the offensive side of the floor. That's very intriguing for me.
Do we think it's A tier, or do we think the defensive limitations put it with the same lineup, or not the same lineup, but another lineup with limitations, which was Booker, the wings, and Mark, that's in B tier? We marked them down because their offense was unsure. Do we put this right next to B tier to talk about, okay, we know the offense is there, but defensively, this is going to be one of the tougher lineups for Ott and his system to cover up for?
Yeah, I would probably go B.
I'd put it above in B tier.
Top of the B tier.
I would put it above because I do think the offensive quantities are a lot more known, and I think the scrappiness on defense is more likely to translate than in the other one, the shooting, to translate. So far, we have the starting 5 in S tier, and then the starting 5 sub Grayson Allen for Jalen Green in S tier. A tier is all alone. In B tier, we have Booker, Green, Grayson, Royce, and Mark at the top of B tier, and then at the bottom, at just 2 teams, we have Booker, Dunn, Brooks, Nigel, and Mark. In C tier, we have Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Rasheer Fleming, Dylan Brooks, and Nick Richards. And then in D tier, we have the D for developmental tier. Kaman, Rasheer, Grayson, Royce, and Colin. We're going to keep on getting to all of these lineups. We still have a lot more to break down, and we're going to do it right after our last break. No one does it better when we're talking about basketball on some sicko bleep than PHNX Suns. And nobody does it better when it comes to entertainment in the Valley than Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I'm talking Lone Butte, Vequeva, Santan Mountain, and of course, my personal favorite, Wild Horse Pass. You can lounge at any of their AAA 4-diamond resorts and let relaxation take charge with unbeatable desert and mountain views. The views are absolutely fantastic. One of the best parts about the state are the desert and mountain views, especially at a sunset. Or you can go give you a big winner on their state-of-the-art gaming floor, catch some of the games at their live sports book, and you can get some great and delicious food, including my personal favorite, the fish and chips. That's right, the fish and chips from the Upper Deck Kitchen and Bar at Wild Horse Pass. They have set the bar so high, but they keep on passing it. You do you. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, visit playatgila.com for more details. Going to give a big shout out to Mountain America Credit Union because I love the Suns and they are the exclusive home of the Suns card and the official credit union of the Phoenix Suns. You can get the Suns card as either a debit or a credit card. When you go with the credit card, no annual fees on that baby. You can get it as a low rate, cashback, or rewards card option, or you can go over to their debit card options and check in with the My Style checking account. Get offers on travel and events, loan rate discounts, identity protection, telehealth access, mobile phone protection, restaurant deals, and so much more. You can not only make the Suns your lifestyle, you can make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union with the official exclusive Suns card. Mountain America is here to guide you forward on your financial journey. Go get your Suns card today. Apply at any Arizona branch. Visit macu.com/Suns to learn more. Insured by NCUA. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Loans are on approved credit. And for my Sun Devil fans out there, of course, they are also a proud sponsor of Arizona State University, the Arizona State University. Big shout out to everybody who's enjoying the sicko basketball conversations in chat. You are who we do it for. Erica, your other co-host, is in here. Sandman, Ashley, Kevo, Sean, Deborah, Dagoon, Ayrton, Corey, Enstacker, Aiden. Man, absolutely packed house here on a Tuesday. Just please smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button and become a member today, just like Deborah is in chat, and spam some exclusive emojis.
Deborah loves her some hoop. I can tell you that.
Deborah, I feel like Deborah is a
recent
member of the PHNX family, but has already become one of the mainstays. Deborah's also in the ASU shows. Like Deborah is everywhere. So big shout out.
Deborah sounds like an MVP.
I mean, is an MVP. I don't even think it just sounds like
an MVM,
MVP.
most valuable member.
Most valuable member. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty high bar.
We got a couple MVMs in the chat.
We got a couple MVMs in the chat. Erica L. Day just became an MVP. Wow. I mean, you know it's good when PHNX Mercury host Erica L. Day becomes an MVP, wanting to spam. I believe is that a Scorch sticker? That is. Mm-hmm. Wow. That is absolutely elite. Hey, Erica, why don't you hit that Kenny Dillingham sticker as well?
That's crazy.
We're ready to get back into this tier. Well, we will in a second, but we do have some breaking news from Shams Charania. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll actually do that. Breaking news from Shams. Let me do that again. Breaking news from Shams. Jonathan Kuminga has finally agreed to a deal with the Golden State Warriors. It is a guaranteed $8 million in the first 2 years framework for him, approximately 15 more. Wait, I'm reading this wrong. Sorry. Let me refresh that. I was reading the wrong tweet. Can I just start over? Can we just grace period for your boy? Mm-hmm. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Breaking news from Shams Charania, the Jonathan I can't speak. 3, 2, 1. Breaking news from Shams Charania, the Jonathan Kuminga saga is over after a summer-long stalemate. Kuminga has agreed to a 2-year, $48.5 million contract to return to the Golden State Warriors. Golden State ultimately increased its offer by a total of $8 million in the 2-year framework and guaranteed Kuminga approximately $15 million more than his qualifying offer would have been this season. He chose a 2-year deal over a 3-year deal, Steven. So the saga is over. He will not be in Phoenix. How do you feel about the Kuminga news?
Kuminga, DeAnthony Melton, Al Horford. Golden State is A little bit on the older side. They have a bit of unction vibes. The unction musk. The unction musk.
They're the grand unction.
But I think they get to the playoff stage, and the IQ of their group comprehensively is going to shine through as a weapon and advantage. And then you mix in someone like Kuminga, they could just do a bunch of different things and be youthful with it as well. And further information from Bobby Marks, Jonathan Kuminga has a January 15th trade restriction. Golden State has retained this flexibility, as we know, for the not until the early part of the regular season. But the other part is that because they brought in DeAnthony Melton and Al Horford, they're hard capped at the second apron.
Yeah, Shams also mentions in one of his classic follow-up quote tweets that both sides understand the likelihood of exploring trades when Kuminga is eligible in January. I know that we talked about it a lot this offseason, Steven, about the possibility of trading for Jonathan Kuminga. Well, now that you know what he's going to get paid, obviously for at least just 2 years now, do you feel like this is a guy that the Suns should still keep tabs on this season? And maybe if it comes down to it and Golden State does need either some veteran presence in Grayson or Royce or a big man in Nick Richards and whatever else the Suns can scrap together, do you feel like that's somebody that you should be watching if you're a Suns fan is, hey, this guy might be at the top of the Suns list and vice versa?
I do, because I feel like he's one of the few pieces that the Suns have routes to attaining that would put their roster in a better position of what it is that they're working towards. Kuminga being able to do the things that he can defensively with the athleticism and activity that he plays with as well, and the versatility, along with Ryan Dunn, is a lot of fun and prospect.
How do you feel about the money?
I think he can get to potential and reaching that.
$24 million a year.
Yeah, I think he can get to that point. His potential is suggested for sure. And I think if he gets in a new ecosystem where he's fully bought in and he's being featured in ways that he won't be with Golden State, I think he has that skill set in him.
I think one of the interesting things is, does he start for the Warriors? Right. And if he doesn't start for the Warriors, how motivated is he to prove people wrong? Obviously, you get your contract, but you don't want to be in Golden State. He does not want to be in Golden State. And if you play good enough, do you play yourself out of the Suns' bracket of offering stuff, right? Yeah. Can you go to the Kings, who have obviously been in on the Jonathan Kuminga saga? Is there another team? You never know what might happen when you get through the season, right? And you're talking about, oh, well, we don't see Team X as a Jonathan Kuminga destination until something happens in the middle of the season and all that changes. I think it's going to be very interesting to keep tabs on Jonathan Kuminga, not just from a Warriors perspective, because if he is great for this team, if he plays to his $24 million per year value, he is the best young piece on this team that is full of old pieces. I think it's also interesting to say, what would the Phoenix Suns be willing to offer? Because we know the Suns are interested per reports. And would that offer increase over this season? If Kuminga plays good enough, would the Suns be willing to part with another one of their young pieces if they are that high on what Kuminga can bring?
Exactly. And to your point about starting, I think 3/5 of their starting lineup is guaranteed between Steph, Clay, and it's just hard not to at this point.
It's okay, man.
Between Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, that's 3/5 of their starting lineup. Who's at the 5? Your guess is as good as mine at the moment. They love Trace Jackson-Davis. Quentin Post played a lot for them in the postseason as well. How much have they grown remains to be seen. The other part in that, Brandon Podziemski or Moses Moody. If you're talking about either two of those 4 players that I mentioned starting, where does Kuminga fit into the mix with all of that, and how much of a minutes total does he take on average per game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be
like
fascinating.
Not stopgap. This feels like a Band-Aid. It's not the end-all, be-all. It's just a put it off for now type of thing.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a fascinating thing to watch, because if he does start, that's a massive lineup around Steph Curry, right? But also they're going to bring in Anthony Melton. They're going to bring in Al Horford, right? I think, when you look at what they are as a team, is this a team that can contend?
They have Steph Curry. All it takes is a 2.5-week heater where he decides that he doesn't want to touch anything, including the net on the way through the basket. And that's enough to shift and sway things. I think we saw what this team's potential defensively was last season, with Jerry Stackhouse being brought in and them being more aggressive and them being a little more nuanced with their approach defensively because of Draymond, in addition to Stackhouse being there. and Jimmy now. I think this is a team that can contend still because of the defense first.
Muhammad says, I'm all for Dylan Brooks swap with Kuminga. Salaries match. Give them a vet, us a rebuilding piece. I mean, Dylan Brooks set the culture. Do you ship him out after half a year for Kuminga?
I mean, if the opportunity presented itself, I think you find a hard way to say no to that. I don't know if the Warriors would want Brooks, though, because of the overlap with Draymond and Jimmy, if you want to add another wing that's cut from that type of cloth to the fold.
I think it's interesting because, yeah, you want a guy like Dylan Brooks, and maybe we'll have to put a pin in the ranking lineups here in a second. I think you want a guy like Dylan Brooks, obviously, for the culture, and depending on how this team is going, but like also realistically speaking, like, is Dylan Brooks on the next great Suns team? Maybe, right? And we don't even know what Jonathan Kuminga really is in this league. He's hit extremely high highs, and his potential as a piece is much higher than what Dylan Brooks' ceiling is. But I think the floor with Kuminga it's so low. I mean, we're basically gonna have to just see what happens until January.
That's what makes the most sense for me. But I don't know if he has enough of a role to show that it's going to be something different than what we already know come January. January is not that far away.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's almost October now. Tomorrow's October 1st.
That's crazy. I can't believe you just said that. Anything else on the Kuminga thing? Do you feel like there's more to dive into here?
I'll just say his potential suggests great things. He has to reach that. I don't know if he reaches that with Golden State because of the way they play and the personnel that they have and the ways that he has to kind of be fit into a role with them versus being able to play to his own strengths.
Okay, well, that's going to do it on our Jonathan Kuminga talk. Let's jump back into tiering lineups here. If you want more Kuminga talk and you just jumped in, just revert a little bit. Reverse that. All right, let's get back into it. We've tiered a lot of lineups so far. We're probably going to have to cut a couple now because we did get distracted by Kuminga. But,
breaking news.
Let's get a fun lineup in here. Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Ryan Dunn, Nigel Hayes-Davis, and Oso Ighodaro.
I'm kicking it to you on this one. I'm very curious.
This is fun.
I have some,
This is fun. The
like
defensive versatility of this lineup, absolutely. Obviously, if you can get some 3-point shooting from Nigel and from Ryan, then this lineup becomes vastly different. But I see Oso Ighodaro as a primary playmaker in this lineup, which I find absolutely fascinating. Obviously, Colin and Jalen are going to have the ball in their hands a lot, but I'm seeing a lot of backdoor cutting. I'm seeing a lot of activity from Dunn and Green in that sense, and then some spacing from Colin and from Nigel. I think this will be, if this does see the floor consistently, one of the more fun, high-tempo offenses that has a unique balance of defense as well.
I think the Suns can get away with playing Oso at the 5 a little bit more than people maybe believe in because most teams don't have a JV Jonas Valanciunas at the 5 behind whoever it is that's starting at the 5 for them. Most teams don't have a traditional center that's playing that spot. It's usually a 4 or 5 tweener, which also is, that he can at least do enough with defensively to have some impact there. Also be active in pick and roll while Nigel Hayes-Davis and Ryan Dunn do some things behind him as well. I like the versatility of this group on the defensive end. And I also love the versatility of this group on the offensive end.
It's probably one of the more balanced lineups we've talked about because it's got a little star power in there as well. It's got a little grit and it's got a little athleticism and versatility along with some brains as well.
It's a young lineup. I mean, obviously Nigel is a little bit older, but he's young in the way he still plays though, and I think that would be good for this lineup. I would place it probably B tier. I feel like that's.
Would you put it? I mean, obviously, there's no book in this lineup. Does that put it below the other two in B tier right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, what you think, Erikson?
I agree with all that.
Sure. Yeah, I think B makes the most sense for that one.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep it rolling here. Next up, another bench mob. This one's fascinating. I really am curious to hear your thoughts on this one. Colin Gillespie, Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, Oso Ighodaro, Kamal Malawach. Grit, grind, and length.
Grit, grind, and youth.
And no shooting.
This is about as young as a lineup as it gets. I put it in the developmental tier because of that. I like it though. I don't want that part to be misconstrued. I just don't know how much the Malawach and Fleming dynamic of that would allow for that lineup to be seen often enough to kind of viably assess it.
Yeah, I think this is another like garbage time lineup. Unfortunately, which I think that just also comes down to how many options this team has. I would put it though above Gillespie, Grayson, Royce, Kaman, Rasheer. I think this one's defensively, this one's infinitely fascinating. I mean, think about the passing lanes, right? So obviously Colin doesn't have a crazy wingspan. Colin is the least like on paper physically gifted guy in this lineup, but he's got the grit, the grind, and he's also the best shooter in this lineup. You then have Ryan Dunn at the 2, Rasheer at the 3, Oso at the 4, Kaman at the 5. How do you get through passing lanes in that? Obviously, offensively, it's tough.
Yeah, offensively, it might be some tough sledding if they're not playing off of stops, but I think defensively, you will have some fun with this one. You can put Dunn at the point of attack. Rasheer can go at the point of attack. Also being active in pick and roll defense. Malawach protecting the rim. Gillespie, multiple efforts all over the place. That's a fun lineup.
Yeah. Going on to our next one. Again, we're no Jalen Green, no Devin Booker. So how often do we see this lineup? I'm not sure. But fascinatingly enough, this is a no point guard or no guard at all really lineup except for Grayson Allen. We got Grayson Allen, Dillon Brooks, Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, and Oso Ighodaro. Oso Ighodaro is your de facto point guard in this.
Yeah, I like it.
How much do you like it? Because there's no star power in this lineup, and there's no guard, technically speaking. I mean, Grayson Allen's a shooting guard, but still.
It's D tier. It's in developmental.
Which is interesting because the only rookie is Rasheer.
Yes. But for the ways that this lineup will have to operate, it's developmental because it's also doing a lot of initiating of points of attack, if not outright initiating the offense. And that's going to be a work in progress. So I can't put that higher than developmental tier.
Where in developmental?
I think in the middle would be fine.
I'm cool with it. I'm not going to argue too much about that because I really want to talk about this next one that I find fascinating as well. So we'll put that one in the middle of D tier. Let's talk Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Dillon Brooks, Mark Williams. So 3 starters plus Grayson and Royce. Book and the quote-unquote vets.
This one is a hard-nosed blue-collar lineup. Having Royce and Dillon Brooks, you got some rough riders. Grayson's never been shy about contact at all on either end of the floor. Devin Booker, like we talked about last season, is a very physical player. Now, he's physical because people get physical with him offensively, but he uses that as an advantage for himself. And Mark Williams plays physical as well. This is a group that's going to get after it. They're going to impose their will on people on both ends of the floor. My only question is, with this lineup, who's guarding at the point of attack defensively? You don't want Grayson to be there because we saw what it looked like when you have to put him in that particular role for long stretches. It's not Devin Booker's cup of tea. He can do it, but he's typically better. They're both typically better when they can take a step to the wing spot in terms of positions they're guarding. Royce isn't a point of attack defender at this point. Dillon Brooks can get it done, but if he's not guarding bigs, that switches things up. I just got questions about it defensively, but competing will not be an issue for this lineup.
Am I crazy for thinking this is an A-tier lineup? I mean, if Dillon Brooks is shooting 40% or near 40% from 3 again.
Yeah, you got potentially 40% plus 3-point shooters.
And Mark Williams, plus like Royce O'Neal has guarded power forwards before. So if you need, depending on if you have a good guy on the perimeter or a good guy interiorly, like you could put Dillon Brooks on the best player and then put, Booker or Royce on the other one, or even Grayson, who like Grayson tries on defense. Like you said, like
it's never for like
he's got the effort. I think this is our first A-tier lineup. Honestly, I think that this is a really, really fascinating lineup personally, but you can.
Yeah, I was thinking top of B, but I won't argue.
Well, I guess it's interesting because the top of B is Book, Green, Grayson, Royce, and Mark, and we said the defense is really questionable there. We're taking out Jalen and we're putting in Dillon, so we're still keeping a 3-point shooter there, but not a creator. But we're upping that defense. I feel like this is a relative balance between the two that we had in B tier that were opposite of each other. The Booker, Green, Grayson, Royce, and Mark, and then the Booker, Dunn, Brooks, Nigel, Mark. I feel like this is kind of that good balance that takes away the too far one end on either of those, which is, I think, what bumps it up to A for me.
Yeah, I'm not mad at A.
Okay, let's put him in A. Let's put him in A. Next lineup that we're going to be ripping through here, we'll do Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Ryan Dunn, Nigel Hayes Davis, Oso Iguodala. So you got 2 out of 3 Gauchos, or 2 out of 2 Gauchos, depending on how you say it. Nigel Hayes Davis, Booker, and Green. I feel like defensive versatility at the 3, 4, 5 is awesome to surround Jalen and Devin.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of usage out of your front court with this lineup because Nigel can do a lot of the stuff that Oso can and vice versa. Allows for Ryan Dunn to potentially be the center on offense with the ways in which he might operate, especially depending on who's going to be guarding him with this lineup. This is a fun one. I'm saying that about a lot of these lineups because I think they're fun in potential and projections to just kind of think about. But what tier do you put this one in?
I like this lineup a lot. I like this line. This, to me, honestly, maybe I'm overrating the 4-5 combo here of Nigel and Oso. Like I think there's potential for this to be an A-tier lineup. I think the defensive versatility that you have with Dunn, Nigel, and Oso there, and obviously like a lot does depend on can Nigel and Ryan Dunn hit open shots, but you've got the gravity of Book and Green, who can also play off ball because you have the playmaking of Oso Iguodala out there as well. You do have, in theory, a couple spot-up shooters there, whether it is Booker, Green, Dunn, or Nigel. Like, I think this lineup is a little bit of everything. Defensive versatility, offensive playmaking and shot making, right? Like athleticism, skill. I feel like this is, again, a really balanced lineup. Maybe on a lot of other teams, this wouldn't be an A-tier lineup, but I think on this one, it can be. But it can be versus is also a different conversation.
Which tier did you say again?
I feel like this might be an end of A tier, but I'm fine going B, but I really like this lineup because I think it's a very balanced lineup.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's put it in A.
Put it at the end of A? All right, cool. End of A tier for that. All right, well, how about keeping Jalen Green on the court, but doing Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, and then Nick Richards. I think this is a lineup you actually might see a lot of this year off of the bench.
We could. I'm curious, what is your perspective on that part of it, though?
On seeing it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as I remind everybody who's watching us on TV, that the party does always continue over at gophnx.com, which means it is time for overtime here on PHNX Suns, presented by Bet365. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and become a member today. Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, Nick Richards. I feel like you see a good amount of shooting surrounding Jalen Green. Nick Richards is just going to be a kind of dunker spot guy. You're not going to be initiating a lot of offense. To me, this is the Jalen Green show. This is go out there and work. You've got spacing. You've got a somewhat of a threat, at least around the paint. And Nick Richards, like he can finish off, dump off. So this is the go to work of Jalen Green. If there was like an intriguing or fascinating lineup option, I think I'd put it in there. But sometimes when you kick it over to me, I feel like you're a little bit lower on a lineup than I am. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
No, not always. I like this one as a secondary lineup. And I say that because I imagine if the rotation is going somewhat close to what I'm kind of thinking, with Jalen coming out a little bit earlier and then re-entering to start up second quarter and pretty much play the entirety of it, I imagine he's going to be in lineup iterations either directly like this one, or we might maybe see Grayson swapped with Colin Gillespie. And it's a similar construct. It's not the same, but it's similar in respects. So because of that, I think this is the type of secondary group you'll see. You want to keep Green with Brooks because of the chemistry that they have and the impact that's been there. You would like to keep Grayson with Royce because those two play well together as well and have shown to do so. And Nick Richards is a player that can do a lot of things for you on the offensive end outside of just playing around the paint area of the floor too. So there's some pieces that you can work with, especially against secondary lineups that other teams will be getting into.
Yeah, I like this one. C tier, B tier?
I would go C.
Top of C? I think top of C tier for this. Let's just do 2 more lineups here. Kuminga news threw a little wrench in our plan here, so no disrespect to some of the lineups that we skip. I'd say the one that I kind of want to talk about the most is what we have as our third to last lineup here, which is a 3-guard lineup.
Number 18.
Number 18, Colin Gillespie, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Ryan Dunn, and Mark Williams. An extremely small lineup, but offensively one of the most dynamic. How do you balance that when you have grit and grind defensive players, you have a big man, you have your two best primary creators in Devin Booker and Jalen Green? Where do you see a lineup that has such clear strengths and such clear deficiencies ranking in this?
I don't. Is it too high to say B tier?
I don't think so. Let's talk about the top 3.
Yep.
Gillespie, Booker, Green.
Mm-hmm.
Booker is your small forward.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, you don't like that. Offensively, you have 3 very potent, very willing 3-point shooters there.
They can all put the ball in the deck.
Yeah. So we talk about double teams, right? This might be the best 3 players that you can have to attack these double teams on the court.
And even more so, if you have any lineups where you can have both Jalen and Devin starting the possession off the ball, the things that you can get into with that, those two screening for each other off the ball, flipping matchups, and then getting into a primary action, I'm very enticed by that. And for multiple reasons, I would love to see this 3-guard lineup on the floor, regardless of who the other 2 players are in the front court. If you can see each of these 3 on the court at the same time, I think there's some fun you can get into.
To me, I want to keep Mark Williams on this lineup, but I think Ryan Dunn can be a conversation. Is there a 4 that you think is better equipped with this lineup? Is it Oso? Is it Rasheer? Is it Nigel? Is it Dylan?
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say there's a 4 because I would rather have Ryan still at the point of attack.
But if you have Ryan at the point of attack, then Devin Booker's guarding your power forward.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
I see what you're getting at with it. Yeah, that gets tough. So then the question is, are you just throwing Colin on?
You're probably throwing Colin as the point of attack. Colin, or I mean, depending on like the guy, like I mean, we've seen Book lock in, and Book will be the biggest guy there. This is going to have to be like you don't have a stopper. Everybody's putting a ton on defense because you actually have less of a load on offense. I wonder if you put like an Oso in there who's more versatile and will help you switch out stuff and is a little bit bigger, help defend the paint as well if Mark has to switch out there. Plus, he can also have the ball in his hands as well to get some of these guys off the ball and create some pretty dynamic movements and touches on offense. Yeah. Maybe putting Oso in there is the best fit, or if it is Rasheer who's massive and can hit threes, then maybe it's that too.
Maybe it's swapping Williams out for Oso then.
And just keeping Dunn and Oso there. Yeah, I feel like Oso in this lineup would be interesting. For that reason, do we want to put this in the B tier?
I would go C.
Okay, top of C tier.
I'll go C, yeah.
I think I'll go top of C tier for the 3-guard lineup with Dunn and Williams. Let's do one more. Steven, out of the remaining ones that we have, which one would you like to tier?
I like the very last one. So we got Colin Gillespie, Grayson Allen, Nigel Hayes-Davis, Royce O'Neal, Mark Williams.
Why do you like this one?
The pick and roll tandem of Colin Gillespie and Mark Williams against secondary lineups is going to wreak havoc. Most secondary lineups.
What is it about those two playing next to each other that you think will wreck secondary units?
It's that most secondary lineups don't have a point of attack guy that's good enough to navigate the type of screens that I imagine Williams is going to be setting, but also might not always have a big that can match Mark Williams in terms of his vertical spacing. And I think that being able to distort shells and create open threes for either of the 3 in the middle with Grayson, Nigel Hayes-Davis, and Royce O'Neal is daunting for a secondary unit. If you got those groups going up against those types of lineups, with the IQ that they share and the veteran between the 3-4 or the 2-3 and the 4 that they have, that's a lot to deal with. I think that's something that they can use to dictate to opponents, honestly.
How do you feel about this lineup defensively?
I like it.
Yeah,
I really do. Colin at the point of attack against a backup guard in some capacity. You don't have to worry as much about Grayson defensively because you have Nigel Hayes-Davis and Royce O'Neal and Mark Williams protecting the paint behind them. There's a lot you can get into with that group.
So where would you put it?
I might put that one in B.
So you think, and again, I'm not trying to be gotcha here. I'm just asking. So you think Gillespie, Grayson, Royce, Nigel, Mark is better than Booker, Gillespie, Green, Dunn, and Williams, or Green, Grayson, Royce, Brooks, and Richards, or Gillespie, Green, Rasheer, Brooks, Richards?
I think it's better because when in the game, I'm imagining that lineup being on the floor, which is against a reserve-heavy lineup. The only starter in that group that I'm speaking to right now is Mark Williams.
Okay.
And I feel like that's why I feel like that will be a successful unit, because of when it's being featured in the lineup, less about the individual pieces in it.
I don't hate it. End of B tier. So we're leaving some lineups off there. Maybe if you guys really liked this, we can do this again as we get closer to the season and hopefully find a better way for you all to be able to maybe see their faces a little bit more. We will zoom in here for everybody. But just to go from top to bottom, starting with S tier, we have Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and Mark Williams. Of course, that is your starting 5. And your S tier, you also have your starting 5, but sub Jalen Green out for Grayson Allen. That might be the most well-fitting lineup on this roster. In the A tier, you also have 2, starting with Booker, Green, Royce, Brooks, and Mark. And then Booker, Green, Dunn, Oso, and Nigel. I think those are fascinating lineups. B tier is our most crowded tier, starting with Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and Mark Williams. Then you have Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, Dylan Brooks, Nigel Hayes-Davis, and Mark Williams. And then you have Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, and Nigel Hayes-Davis. Lots of Nigel Hayes-Davis in this tier. He's also the next one in our secondary unit lineup, which is Colin, Grayson, Royce, Nigel, and Mark. In C tier, you got the 3 guard lineup: Gillespie, Booker, Green with Dunn and Williams. We might want to throw Oso in there to bump that up. Then you have Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Dylan Brooks, and Nick Richards. Then you got Grayson Allen, Jalen Green, Rasheer Fleming, Dylan Brooks, and Nick Richards. And our D for developmental tier, you've got Gillespie, Rasheer, Oso, Dunn, and Malawach. Then Grayson, Brooks, Dunn, Oso, and Rasheer. And then finally, you have Gillespie, Grayson, Royce, Rasheer. Come on. I know that this was
14 lineups.
And we had 6 more that we had to skip because Jonathan Kuminga decided to finally do something after we had our entire show planned. Glad all of you psychos and sickos were able to spend some time with us. It looks like a lot of you in the chat like this. I know that this is very in the weeds, but that's just what we like to do over here. We like to talk about basketball, so boy, are we excited for
There's
NBA
a lot
to
of
be
ambiguity with this roster, and we have to lean into that because it's fascinating, but you can also learn a lot from the talking through of how you envision things, what you maybe might not like, and you might learn more from those conversations versus sitting with your own thoughts on it.
And that's why the title of the show is why the Phoenix Suns will be surprisingly dangerous in 2025, because this is why.
Dangerously surprising.
Dangerously surprising. I like that. A little flip on words. Because they have the optionality, they have the depth, they have the versatility, and that's something they did not have last year. It felt like even with the different lineups they had, it felt like they all checked the same boxes. I think the most interesting thing about what we figured out today in this exercise we couldn't even fully break down is how many different types of looks each team or each lineup had. So this Friday, of course, is the first preseason game against the Lakers. Espo and I will have you held down for that because somebody has to cover a finals run over here because the Merc are hooping. So as always, check out PHNX Mercury. Erica was in the chat earlier. It's Erica, Steven, and of course Kevo. So you can check that out. As we are still waiting to figure out who the Mercury will be playing, but boy, we know that somebody who isn't playing is Nafisa Collier. So hit that like button. We're still here for you this week. We'll be live every day at 3 until Friday. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any shows. Hit that join button so you can be like Deborah, Melissa, and Max here in chat. Maria with the super chat. Yes. Oh, I feel like we don't see Maria that often anymore now that we are in the off season. Excited to see you back in the chat consistently.
Maria, I'm talking to you. The Mercury are in the finals.
Finals?
I should be seeing you in every one of our pods, pregame, postgame, whenever it is that we're doing it. You've been excited about this team since before the season started. Now it's time for you to reap the benefits of your excitement being appropriate.
Maria,
I'll see you there.
Buzzer.
Make sure you say hi when you pull up.
I like that. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling you up. Maria with a $4.99 super chat says, excited for the season. Hope it goes well and we see continued growth all season. You know what? That is all that we can ask for. And we also appreciate all of you who are joining us here today. We'll be back tomorrow at 3. We've got a bunch of banger shows for you coming up. So make sure you check that out. Tomorrow, we're going to be exploring the ceilings and floors of each individual individual player. Thursday, we're going to be talking about how Jalen Green can learn from his playoff failures. And Friday, of course, pre- and post-game show for the first time in the quote-unquote new season. We'll see you all there. You can follow us in the meantime at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter. That's on Instagram. For all the training camp updates, stuff that Steven's getting out there, you'll put it out on socials and everything that we don't show you on this show. Get up to date. Be the smartest Phoenix Suns fan at PHNX_Suns. And we appreciate, of course, the man making all the magic happen behind the Mac, old Fisherton back there. You can follow him at Freckled Mamba. It just has too good of a ring to it.
That's crazy.
It has too good of a ring to it, does it not?
I'm anti-old Mangletoes, so I'll take Old Fisherton.
You'll take Fisherton instead of Mangletoes?
Yes.
You can follow Old Mangletoes at Freckled Mamba. You can follow Steven here at StevenPG3. Don't worry, I'm saving all of your nicknames for later when we get closer to the season. You thought I forgot, but I didn't. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. And until tomorrow, enjoy the versatility of this roster.
We all silly like the mayor.